კი, ქართული. ატოცემლო მეგობრებო, ჩვენ ეხლა შეგვიძლია
Eka Kubusidze, Head of Telecommunications, Information and Modern Technology Development Department, Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia. Yoo-hoo! Fantastic. And also Eka Imedadze, the Commission member of the Georgian National Communications Commission. Yo-ho. Unfortunately, there should be also Himmat Singh Sandhu from the World Bank. He is a good friend of us and digital development specialist, but unfortunately he couldn't be with us, even online. But we do hope that next time he will join us and share with us his good moods and vibes. So now, Eka Kubusidze, can I give the microphone to you? It's not working.
Really?
I can make it.
Მოგესალმებით. Do you need headphones?
That's fine.
Okay. მოგესალმებით, მხიარულად დავიწყეთ დღევანდელი დღე, კარგია ეს, მაგრამ უფრო მეტად სერიოზულები რო ვიყოთ, ალბათ ოპერატორების მეტი დაინტერესება კარგია. ჰიმატი არ ვიცი სიმართლე გითხრათ, სამწუხაროდ არ გვერდება, თუმცა არის ჩვენი დონორი, ჩვენთან ერთად არის მსოფლიო ბანკი და ორიოდი სიტყვით ძალიან მოკლედ ვეცდები გითხრათ საერთაშორისო connectivity-ის ვიხმარ უფრო ლამაზია, ასე ვთქვათ. ჩვენი ქვეყნისთვის იცით, რომ ეს არის ერთ-ერთი სტრატეგიული მიმართულება და პრიორიტეტი საქართველოს მთავრობისთვის, პირდაპირ შემიძლია გითხრათ. ჩვენ ისევ და ისევ მსოფლიო ბანკთან ერთად და მე უფრო ველოდი, რომ ჰიმატი დეტალურად გააკეთებდა ინფორმაციას, პრეზენტაციას, სადაც გამოჩნდებოდა connectivity-სთან საერთაშორისო კავშირთან დაკავშირებული საკითხები. ამიტომ მე სამწუხაროდ არ მაქვს ახლა დეტალური ინფორმაცია, მაგრამ მოგაწვდით policy level-ზე, ანუ პოლიტიკის დონეზე რა ეტაპზე ვართ და რა პრიორიტეტია ჩვენი ქვეყნისთვის საქართველოს ციფრულ ჰაბად ფორმირება, მისი პოტენციალის მაქსიმალურად გაზრდა. ჩვენ გვაქვს ისევ და ისევ მსოფლიო ბანკთან ერთად შემუშავებული ფართოზოლოვანი ინტერნეტ ინფრასტრუქტურის განვითარების ეროვნული სტრატეგია, მისი განვითარების გეგმით 2020-2025 წლებისთვის და ერთ-ერთი საკმაოდ დიდი თემა სწორედ ეხება ციფრული ჰაბის პოტენციალის გაზრდას, რომელიც თავის მხრივ გულისხმობს ფიზიკურ ოპტიკურ ბოჭკოვან შეერთებას ევროპასა და აზიას შორის საქართველოს გავლით და მეორეს მხრივ გულისხმობს რეგიონალური მონაცემთა გაცვლის ცენტრის ფორმირებას. აქ მინდა აღვნიშნო, რომ საქართველოს ევროპული პრაქტიკის შესაბამისად არ გეგმავს სახელმწიფოს მიერ იყოს განსაკუთრებით მონაცემთა გაცვლის ცენტრი ფორმირებული, იმიტომ რომ მონაცემთა გაცვლის ცენტრს სჭირდება
center because it requires so-called trust mark. Which is held by big data players on the market. It is a priority for us, and we are ready as a government to Tile 1, Tile 2 are relatively lower levels, and number 3 and 4 are higher levels. So we want to bring in Tile 4 and Tile 3 and Tile 4 operators and create benevolent conditions for them to flourish here. In particular, the government will allocate a land plot, provide electricity supply, provide internet connection so that a data protection center point can function. And this will we want to be a trust mark in the region, which is one of the really cornerstones when we're talking about big data. And the things that matter here is the security of big data. And so our priority is whether it's Amazon, Microsoft, other big players, to bring them into Georgia and to have this switch point in Georgia. This is required by the international connectivity priority, which Georgia is planning to facilitate and promote. And this is important for a new highway of optical fiber highway to function through the Black Sea. We have our neighbors, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkey. We have a situational research analysis or pre-feasibility analysis that we start with the World Bank to implement the national strategy, which I already mentioned. And in order to make this happen, we started this initial assessment together with the World Bank, and according to this needs assessment, by 2028, the amount of traffic will increase by 30%, and of course the COVID pandemic accelerated this trend. Traffic has been increased on a daily basis, and yesterday, if you were listening to Sandro from GNCC, he talked about the increase also in internal traffic, not only external, and that's because of inflow of many people in Georgia, whether tourists or non-tourists. So in any case, it's good that the amount of traffic is increasing. So by 2028, by 30%, increase by 30%, and then later on, the expectation is that the traffic amount will double in South Caucasus. So it's very important that we remain in good friendship and cooperation with our neighbors. Connectivity does not exist in isolation. Everything, if we do anything, we need to do it also with our neighbors. And this highway will go, of course, not only through Georgia, but through our neighbor countries. We just recently, about 1 month ago, we conducted an international summit with the help of World Bank and European Investment Bank. And so we want investors to get interested, whether local investors or international investors. And this could be local operators, their international partners, or completely new partners. So once again, the government is determined to help by all means, existing or new investors to help connect Georgia through the Black Sea to Europe, whether it would be Romania, Bulgaria. We'll see how it works. And we will see this from the so-called feasibility study, and we've already finished the pre-feasibility, and so once again the main feasibility study is being undertaken now. The EU is involved, European Investment Bank is involved. The situational analysis will show technical and economical aspects, apex, opex, any gaps that should be taken into account, opportunities, challenges, risks. This is going to be quite a comprehensive research paper. There will be, and when it comes to when it will be done, we already needed it yesterday. So let's say, this phrase. So Georgia will be ready to conduct the increased traffic. And then when it comes to international cooperation, certainly cooperation with our neighboring countries is a priority, and I'm very glad that our neighbors are interested. And so by joining forces, I think the project is capable of being implemented without Georgia, without Armenia, without Azerbaijan. This project cannot be made possible, and our situational analysis shows that future lies for digitalization. So demand will increase, and our country, should be ready for this, should be prepared. And I'm talking not only about international connectivity, but also the local market. The local market and the local infrastructure should also be ready and prepared. The GNCC yesterday said, we have 87% coverage of the territory, but we still have a gap, and this is no wonder, because there is digital inequalities between rural and urban areas. So we have this state internetization, then community internetization. So by 2025, we have full coverage, unfortunately excluding the so-called occupied territories. So we will have full coverage by 2025, save for the occupied territories. So that's part of the digital hub plan. So that's it about policy. Once again, we had a great expectation that the World Bank representative would join, but I don't know the reason why our friend could not join. There are other projects, I'm sure, but if you have any questions which I can answer, please go ahead. Thank you, Vahan, for the question. Well, it's unfortunate what's happening today, nowadays. The war between Ukraine and Russia. This is so unfortunate, and we're talking about in 21st century. We're talking about digitalization, and there's this war going on. But on the other hand, it has also these events maybe accelerated the plans for our countries to go quickly with our purposes. The traffic that was going through the Russian Federation, this traffic could be obtained by our countries, by our region, and it's also attractive from a geographical point of view, because South Caucasus, all the countries in South Caucasus, we are the shortest way to Europe, instead of this longer distance, because we all agree that longer way means worse quality and also more cost in terms of interconnections. When it comes to Ukraine, we had a representative of Ukraine at the summit from the relevant ministry. He or she is very interested in this project, and he said they are ready to be part of the game. They understand that the future lies with digitalization. And yes, this is a challenge, as you said, but at the same time, as you said, it's also an opportunity to accelerate our development and also to obtain the traffic from Russia. Thank you very much, Johan. Well, greetings, everyone. I can hear it. It's okay. I'll try to answer Vahan's question and also do a small presentation for today. First of all, so this is an urgent topic of Black Sea connection through the Black Sea and South Caucasus connection with Europe through Black Sea. Last year, there was this meeting also last year, and since last year, quite a number of steps have been made. I kind of made a list of what has been done, list of achievements since then, so that we can capitalize on what we have already done, and we can do more for the next year, 2023. So one, Ministry and World Bank conducted a summit in September. In this strategy for 2020-2030, the strategy now mentions the priority of this regional potential and Georgia being a kind of hub, turning Georgia into a hub, a digital hub. Also, what Eka said about investment projects, and I think there will be a better picture 1 year after. The project will include a component like changes in regulatory acts, changes in the legislation, and what components have to be added in terms of cybersecurity. And I'm talking about regulation framework now. Another thing that's important to mention, in October, EU4Digital strategy was renewed. A steering committee meeting was held, and so the pilot initiatives include, once again, this project of connection through the Black Sea, and the EU remains an active stakeholder and supporter of the process. Now, as the Commission, proper GNCC, proper what we do to promote this process in terms of regulatory framework. Yesterday, we mentioned holistic research of the telecom market. So GNCC has launched this research into the telecom market, One part of market we are going to research is the global internet market. In other words, how global internet is being imported and what are the barriers or obstacles in order to make international connections better. What tariffs are, for example, transit tariffs, are they attractive? Because in order for us to, how to say, establish ourselves at the international market, we have to have a good understanding of tariffs and how they work. Other ways for the Commission to help the process is sharing of other countries' experience. One country that was represented at the summit was Ireland. Ireland is known for they are a famous hub for digital services, and so their experience, how they created the service infrastructure, and we want to work with the Irish regulating authority. In 2023, Georgia will be chairperson of regulators from the eastern side, eastern regulators. Ireland will be co-chair, so we want to use this opportunity to learn the Irish experience and maybe import some of their practices. So we want to learn what measures did the Irish Regulation Authority take to accelerate the turning of Ireland into a digital hub. A good facilitating factor to this process, in addition to the underwater cable and this infrastructure under the sea, it's important that there is a neutral exchange point. And so the GNCC's role here is to check whether the rules are transparent. What are the rules among the operators? Is it possible for a small operator to hook themselves up? And so, and are there any obstacles to this goal of forming a neutral switch point, connection point? Oftentimes we receive questions from international consortiums. For example, if there is an interest into the laying a new cable into the Black Sea, what would be the rules or procedures or obstacles that they would encounter? For example, one of the questions has been, can they build infrastructure and then somebody else is the service provider? And so we want to work with our stakeholders to make the rules very clear and, of course, to remove any obstacles that could be removed. That's one of our priorities. Importantly, this big platforms are creating their own infrastructures. For example, Google has its own cable. Meta has one in Europe and is now building an underwater cable in the Pacific Ocean. So that's a kind of guarantee for them to keep, how to say, digital sovereignty. I have one slide, please. Can we put it up on the screen? By the end of 2021, a study was published on subsea connectivity influence on the growth of GDP and, in general, growth of economy. And this is specifically about this new Meta cable. And actually what I talked about is provided shortly there. So when an underwater cable is being built, there should be, the earth infrastructure, ground infrastructure, because the water flows over the earth, and then this if this is the way the cable is built, in that case the speed is increased, the prices are lowered. And so main point here is the main actor here is the consumer, because they get a better quality, better speed, higher speed, and also new consumers are coming in, that new operators are coming in, which helps reduce the digital gap. One thing that our government works for is e-commerce. And so small and medium businesses to make more use of cloud and other technologies. The appearance of the emergence of new startups and new companies, and after all, eventually this will help increase the country's GDP. And also, what's especially important for small countries is the foreign direct investments, increase in foreign direct investments. And Europe is a very developed market, but it's also quite saturated. And even a saturated market like European market, even European countries' GDP will be increased. Subsea cables are catalyzers, accelerators of the growth of economy. So to go back to where I started, I hope we will continue this cooperation. With our neighbors will continue for the benefit for the economies of our countries, but also to improve the investment environment and of our countries, and to improve the regulations that are applicable. Our partners say that this isolated Black Sea corridor is one of the guarantees for cybersecurity. Yes, thank you. I have two questions. We need to take into consideration the regional context. So I have two questions. First, does ECA have data about increase in traffics from Asia through us, through Georgia, through Caucasus to Europe? And I have another question to Vahan, who is IP officer in Central Asia. What are changes in the Asian traffic, including towards our countries? And IXP, what is the price of 1 megabyte per second, for example, in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan? Do you have this information? Yes, thank you. Ucha, Eka will answer. I'll just also have a quick comment question. I missed this piece of information that Eka said about Asia Pacific. And Georgi, please correct me if I'm wrong. We certainly see a connection between our project and Asia Pacific. The Asia Pacific project is a huge project, and the whole idea of international connectivity is that everybody is in. This is not really a question; it's kind of comment. I understand the neutrality principle, the Google issue. It's possible to hire a channel and just a second, let her finish. For example, the Google could take several endings of the cable and manage the cable without building a new one. So I think the project would also benefit the big players, because we will say, okay, here's the network, the technologies are there, the infrastructure is there, and they can, for example, hire these technologies, the infrastructure, instead of building a new cable. Yes, I see you're nodding. So, for example, the investor may decide not to build a new cable in Europe, but maybe to hire the existing one. Well, indeed. I just gave this example of Google and Meta because there's a lot of interest in subsea cables, including neutral models. In general, countries are like, I would say, are fond of neutral cables, which you can hire.
Well, yes, it's essential to use the landline infrastructure, use and develop in order to use the Black Sea potential. Ucha, I don't possess this information. I know that demand has increased with regards to Turkey, and Turkey is working in order to identify new routes, and Georgia has the potential to be involved, to be the part of it. And in the Commission, we would like to analyze the situation, have this kind of analysis of this type of increase and development to understand what could be the alternative route. Route with Turkey in order to increase the route, increase the potential, and we can use the local operators and their infrastructure and their potential.
Yeah, and I can also add
Thank you very much for noting this, because yes, for the government of Georgia and for the Commission as well, this is one of the priorities, that we're open. And in our regulations and the policy papers, we are open to suggestions and we take recommendations, suggestions, and this is kind of the advantage that we have. The World Bank is mentioning about that doing business. According to doing business, we have one of the highest ranking. However, it was suspended because they are going through rebranding. However, ranking was pretty good, pretty favorable. So it gives us a lot of opportunities, and definitely we can fulfill these ambitions with our partners. The question for you: you mentioned correctly that infrastructure network exists even in Georgia. Yes, we have connections, we have infrastructure. The same in Armenia, I guess, I'm sure. However, yeah, you see a lot of stuff from Ripen. Again, in Armenia, you have a network, you have infrastructure. Why don't you use it to the full potential? This is because of the lack of management amongst operators, or the network or the system is closed, or there was no demand up to now in order to have this kind of submarine possibilities, because it has a lot of potential, and there's a free space. There is a free space. What is the reason behind why it is not fully used in our digital era? მათ არ ესმით, საიდან მოდის ეს ტრაფიკი. აი მაგალითად, სამინისტრო, რომელიც
even not countable now. We're talking about 5 billion, 10 billion, 13 billion. Now it is not countable how many these IoT devices will be in the world, how many people will use telemedicine, how many traffic will be increased because of e-health services, of e-gov services, of e-education services. So I think that we will have a lot of demand, but we as state, as regulators, as multi-stakeholder companies, multi-stakeholder bodies, we should support this development in the region. I guess it is already time for a coffee break, I guess. Many of you are eager to take this hot cup of coffee and continue the communication there. So your applause is to the speakers, to two beautiful ladies, Eka and Eka. Yeah, and me, a bold guy. Thank you. Madlaba.
In this session, we had a very best moderator. Thank you, Vahan.
Updates from RIPE NCC and what we are doing in the region, what do we have for the region and for you, Georgian Network Operators Group and technical community. Do I have a presentation? Whew. Yes, I do have. Good. This is the regional initiatives overview, and I'll also represent myself. In fact, I used to be, excusez-moi, the title used to be the External Relations Officer for Central Asia and Caucasus. As we have now some wider engagement, it has been changed to the Community Development and Public Policy Officer. So we work both with technical community and with the state bodies, and that is reflected in the title itself. And I'm not only for the Central Asia and Caucasus currently, but also developing some projects and implementing some projects in the European part and in the Middle East part of our service region, and we'll talk about that in future. So, what do? We have a lot of cooperation initiatives with our industry partners. And our industry partners are coming both from this called ISTAR organizations and also the local organizations that we are dealing in the regions and in the countries itself. What do we have? What did we make in 2022? Sorry guys. So we did a virtual peering series in Central Asia, and this was all about the peering and interconnection, and we did it with the Internet Society, with the support of Meta, with the support of Eurix. I'll talk about that in further. We did the Internet Measurement Day, and one of these activities has been held in Georgia. We support K-root server operations in Central Asia and around the region. And we have just finalized the first Central Asia Peering and Interconnection Forum that has been held in Almaty, Kazakhstan. This is an event type that came to substitute another event that you know quite well, ENOG. Eurasia Network Operators Group, that was also held once in Georgia and in Armenia, and currently we are substituting it with the local and regional initiatives that can come also for Georgia as well. The next time Central Asia Peering and Interconnection Forum will be held most probably in Uzbekistan next November. So we are bringing there not only Central Asian countries, but we had there also operators from Iran, from Caucasus as well, from Azerbaijan. And we do hope that next time Georgians will also be there and Armenians as well. So virtual peering series Central Asia. Why we are talking about this activity, although it was for Central Asia, but it was talking about the peering and interconnection that can enable these operators to get connected to other parts of the world, especially Caucasus, as we see. It was organized with ISOC and Eurix with the support of Meta, Flex Optics, DECIX, Team Kumru, M6, Flex Optics and Namix again, yeah. What we're discussing there, the benefits of IXPs, bringing together network operators, content providers, CDNs, DNS operators, and who are interested in improving the internet in this country, in Central Asian region, localities and develop plans for establishing and operating an IXP. We already had there some IXPs from the region, and they were talking also about their experience, their niche issues and niche local expertise they have. We have tried also to bring some regional experience there, so There were the Albertonian, the president of Armix, Armenian Internet Exchange, and also Uche Setori, that was representing Small and Medium Operators Association of Georgia. They were sharing their experience of building IXP, their tensions, their challenges, what have been done there and how they succeed there. So we did quite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have made 7 instances of this virtual peering series, and the last one was in July this year, but we have started it from 2021. There are some links you can go. This link is blue, non-visible color, but you can still push there by mice and go there. Ah, I have it. These, blue. Yep. So, about the Internet Measurement Day, why we have initiated this activity. So it has been initiated by 2 organizations, RIPE NCC and ICANN. So the previous one, if you remember, was with ISOC and Eurex. This one is with another industrial partner of ours, with ICANN. We are working in the region with, and we have tried to bring there also some local community representatives. We did this activity in Armenia, we did this activity in Armenia, we did it in Czech Republic, we did it in Serbia, we did it in Georgia. The last one was in Serbia. It was really awesome, and it also pushed us to have an in-person already Internet Measurement Day event in 2023. These all previous ones were organized remotely. It was a virtual activity, but currently, because of quite a large number of requests, we will make one in-person meeting, most probably in Central Asia, and one virtual meeting, most probably in Romania or other parts of Europe next year. We were engaging here also the local counterparts, not to just to represent what is going on with the internet measurements in these international organizations like we are or ICANN, but also to bring some local expertise. Why do they need these internet measurements? How do they implement these internet measurements? And what benefits they see in making these internet measurements for their organizations, their companies, their institutions? So we're engaging the regulators as well, because the project that was also represented by the ICANN, ITHI, was also supporting the measurement from the root servers, so it was also interesting for the regulators itself. What we were representing there, it was about the internet measurements tools and systems, such as RIPE Atlas, ITHI, this was ICANN topic, RPKI, Routing Information Service. Special attention was also paid to RIPEStat, and that is our large-scale information service and open data platform, and it is mainly based on the RIPE Atlas props and anchors that are widely spread all over the region and the world. And fortunately, going a bit forward on that, I want to announce that in Georgia, we already have deployed the RIPE Anchor. It is deployed by Roman Karchava at their network, so it can be beneficial for all Georgia to also make the measurements through this RIPE Anchor. This is very unique device. There is one in Armenia and one in Georgia, and, well, nowhere else in the region. And yes, as you can see, the local counterparts were also representing their local internet measurements. Supporting root server operations. As you can see, we have a number of companies that are supporting root server operations in the world. And if you go to this companies or organizations that are supporting the root server operations, it comes obvious that, well, from our region, it is mainly RIPE NCC, I mean from the European region, it is mainly the RIPE NCC that is supporting K-root operations. At the next slides you will see how many root servers do we have in the region, but as you can see, many of them are from the US. We have Cogent Communications, we have NetNode, okay, that is iRoot, and we have deployed recently in Armenia another iRoot server. But if we go forward, we can see the comparison of root servers we have in the region. In Georgia, we have unfortunately just 2 root servers. That is K root server, that is provided by RIPE NCC, and F root server that is provided by Internet Systems Consortium. If we go to Armenia, we have 2 instances of K server, F server, L server, D, E, and also I server that is not represented in this picture. In Azerbaijan, we have F and L, and we have 2 F servers, one in Baku, one in Lankaran. But there is no other servers in the region. If we also compare it with other countries, like in Ukraine, there, well, I do hope it is still there. So we had here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we had a lot of root servers. In Estonia, there are 6. In where is it? Latvia, we have also 6. In Lithuania, we have 6 plus 1 double F, and here we also have in Helsinki, it is Finland, we have also 6. So we have a lot of route servers in neighboring countries, and this is one of key elements of keeping the infrastructure, internet infrastructures working efficiently in the country. And this is just a call to the partners from Georgia. If they have the interest, for example, for L-root server, we have the ICON representative here. You can also come to her and ask her, Siranush, can we deploy a root server in Georgia?
Yes.
Yes. Let's applause to Siranush. Applauses to Siranush. Good, good, great. So, yes, and we can come to other partners we might have here and in future with us and ask them the same. And one thing, we had no root server in Tajikistan. You know Tajikistan? Tajikistan, Dushanbe, mountains, the same as here, yeah. Near Afghanistan, not a very, let's say, advanced for technical networks country, and they didn't have any root server. What they did, they have initiated, they had an idea in mind, and this idea was supported by the activity. So when you have this idea, it can stay with you, but when you make it, turn it to the activity, there is a lot of possibility that you can achieve your goals and objectives. So what they did, they came with this idea to RIPE NCC, and we had there, I'll talk about that in future as well, we had there the grant to deploy a K-root server in Tajikistan. So they got it in 2017, and they have put the K-root DNS mirror in Tajikistan, and currently this country has the K-root server, at least the K-root. Of course, they can also, what they can also do, they can also come to Siranush and ask, Siranush, can we put an L-root server in Tajikistan? And Siranush will answer,
Talk to relevant people.
Yes, talk to relevant people from ICANN, from our own organization, I mean the own organization of Siranush, and they will put this road server with the support of ICANN as well. Good. Before going ahead, I want to also share one information about good engagement. So the technical, this is a really new story. I guess not many people knows about that. What was very successful here, the technical engineer that was working on this deployment of K-root server, and that was also supporting of this deployment from Tajikistan. What he did, he understood that RIPE NCC, this environment is very important for him. He understood that he can give the community more that he is doing in his current position. And what he did, he has applied to RIPE NCC, and he is now employed by RIPE NCC and is working at our Amsterdam office. Great. So, what else we do for the community itself? Training and education part. We have so-called RACI, RIPE Academic Cooperation Initiative. So it has been, it started in 2013 as a way to connect the RIPE community with the research community. In fact, it is the same. At RIPE community, we have a number of groups. They are represented by governments, they are represented by research groups, they are represented by people itself. So this program was to connect the RIPE technical community to the research community. And the aim was to offer the academics the chance to present their work, their research, make connections, and also get feedback, industry support to their researches. Successful applicants receive complimentary tickets to RIPE meeting and to other meetings that we have in the region. They also get travel and accommodation support to the meetings. All applicants can also publish their work through the RIPE Labs. There are also some links here. And it is not only for RIPE meetings, in fact. We are having the fellowships for all of our meetings, should it be a RIPE flagmanship meeting that is organized twice per year, should it be MINOG, Middle East Network Operators Group meeting, should it be SEE, Southeast Europe meeting, or Central Asia Peering and Interconnection Forum, we do provide some fellowship and child support to the participants from the region. For example, for Central Asia Peering and Interconnection Forum, we had 24 supported participants, 24 fellowships. So it is a huge number, because even for RIPE we support usually 15 participants, and this time for the Central Asia Peering and Interconnection Forum they were 24, including one from Georgia. So there is a question, what can be an example of RIPE topic? What is interesting to the community? The general examples are here. Network measurement and analysis, IPv6 deployment, BGP routing, network security, internet governance, peering and interconnectivity, Internet of Things. But when people in the regions in these countries ask me about this, I always give them an example and advice. Guys, don't ask somebody from Amsterdam what is interesting for them. Don't ask somebody from Dubai what is interesting for them. Go and ask your network operator. Go and talk it with your technical community what is interesting for them. And if it is interesting for them, 99.9% it will be also interesting for us, because we are a part of this technical community. They are a part of us. RIPE NCC is a network coordination center. RIPE Network Coordination Center. So if it is interesting for networks, it is also interesting for us. So go ahead and talk with your community. In 2021, we have just changed a bit the implementation view of RACI. So because there were no travels, we have saved a lot of money there, so we have decided to provide some grants for the research project itself, not to fund the researchers to come to our meetings, but to fund the research project itself. So we have provided the grants to two topics, two projects, let's say. You can find these projects here. And one of the projects was implemented by Louis Petinat from and Kevin Lemonnier from JEOD, New University of Paris. And that's quite interesting why people from Paris can do the researches in this geographical area and we cannot do. We can also do these researches. I'm pretty sure, and I just call for each and every university and research center in Georgia to join us and to apply to us with their projects and initiatives about the internet. We have so-called RIPE NCC Academy. What I talk is totally free. It is not totally free because it is have some charity activities. No, this is totally free because we have the mandate to provide this to the technical community in the region. So about this RIPE Academy, we have all our free online learning platform for internet network professionals and students. And current online courses include 3 courses. That's about Introduction to IPv6, that is about IPv6 security, and that is about RIPE database. Also going forward, I can tell that we have also the certification exams for people that want to pass the certification, and they can pass the certification and get the certificate of professional that knows everything about IPv6, that knows everything about IPv6 security, and that knows everything about RIPE database. That is it. They can add their badges to their LinkedIn page. They can keep it and provide to their employee. There are these online exams, so they can get these online exams and get the certification of analyst, RIPE database associate, or IPv6 security expert. That is a new program. What is interesting also, we talk about RIPE NCC and we say that RIPE NCC is a membership-based organization, and we have around 24 or even more thousands of members all over the region, and around 90% of them are telecommunication companies. But we have also the banks, we have also government bodies, we have also some other organizations that have the large networks. So this certification, in fact, can be acknowledged by all these organizations because they are our members. So they can come and see that you are accredited by the RIPE NCC, and this is telling them a lot. For academic engagement initiatives, we have 2 phases of cooperation. For the phase 1, we have several activities, including that it can be a half-day workshop information session with partner university and institution, with the topics covering internet fundamentals, data analytics, trends in telecom sector, domain name system, etc. We try to do it with our industry partners, so we succeed to make it with the engagement of ISOC, of ICANN, of some at-large organizations from ICANN. So, and we did it in Armenia, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, and Russia. So we did it in Georgia. We have cooperated with the Free University, University of Georgia, Technical University, with the Caucasus University. I guess I remember all of them. Yes. This is also free of charge. We also provide the RIPE Atlas props free of charge. And we also involve local and international partners to deliver some localized content, so students can understand that these tools, these instruments are not only for people from Amsterdam or somewhere from the Seattle, but also it is beneficial for their own companies, for the companies from the local market. Second stage, phase 2, may include deeper cooperation to work together in the system of RIPE Atlas, to develop and deploy joint educational programs. We have such example with the American University of Beirut. So they have developed the joint curricula, and our part is there, provided by our trainers. We provide the support to the organization of hackathons by a partner university or institution. We have also our own hackathons, like we did some several days ago, the Quantum Internet Hackathon with several universities in Europe, and universities in Georgia can also join this. So they can come with each and every idea they have there. We also have webinars. These webinars are also free of charge. This is 1 hour interactive webinar on the following topics: Internet governance, Internet routing registry, RIPE Atlas usage, introduction to the RIPE database, IPv6 addressing plan, IPv6 in the RIPE database, new LIRs, IPv6 prefix calculation, RPKI, and RIPE policy. So all these topics can be approached by the webinars. And if you have any idea of any other topic you want to see, just address it to us, and we'll try to consider it for the future. Community engagement is mainly, let's say, embraced by the Community Projects Fund. So this is the largest instrument we have to work with the community and provide them the support. So we have some large history of supporting the projects, and we have initiated in 2017 the Community Projects Fund facility, and we provide 250,000 euros per year to support non-commercial projects for the value to the operation and sustainable development resilience of the Internet. We support here the good of the Internet, the preferences for the projects from our service region, and it should benefit to the Internet, particularly the RIPE community must be non-commercial. There must be a clear project plan and timeline. Applications may apply as many times as they want to for different projects per year. And the same project may be funded more than once, but not in the same year. And you can find out more at this link. So the question is, if you have a good project idea, can you just come and ask, give me some money? Ha!
Okay, I will come to you.
Yes, actually, she can come to me. Yes, with the ideas, you can come to us, but we will not provide any money if you come and tell, I need some money. Of course, yes. So we need to provide some feasibility plan for that. We should provide the plan that it will benefit to the aims and goals of the community in this region, and in that case, we can support you. Fantastic. So there is no minimum amount of funding that must be distributed each year. So you can apply for 10,000 euro, you can apply for 200,000 euro. There is no limit, but from our experience, I would suggest it to be from 20,000 to 70,000 per project. This is a non-formal advice. It can be used to purchase the equipment. However, this cannot be the sole expenditure. There should be other activities as well. So it can't be used for humanitarian aid donations or to encourage political reform. It can't be used to provide the scholarships or cover tuition fees, and it cannot be used to support a commercial activity. So it should be a non-commercial activity. We already have some applications in 2022, and the next round for applications will be open in May 2023. So get ready, get prepared, and apply to this project fund. An advice from my side: when you go for the applications, just check very clearly where who was granted with this funding. We have a list of grantees, we have a list of their projects, so it can provide you some clear picture what might be interesting for us to be funded. We had during this COVID era also this open house initiative that were some 90 minutes virtual events open to all stakeholders who were discussing various topics such as academic cooperation, e-learning, internet in different countries, Central Asia country report, what does the new Digital Service Act means for you, and we have some upcoming events here. We are changing the view for it from the, let's say, countrywide, because we will try to make the in-person events already in the region, but some topic-wise activities still will be implemented through the open house initiative. So there is a place for the questions. If you have any questions, I am with you. Oh my God, we have 2 hands there. Please, can you give me the microphone? 2 hands there.
Concerning your funding projects,
do
you have some statistical data about which ones are successful, which ones are not, or I mean, do you have some researches about it?
Good question. I can tell you from the general framework of projects that are implemented with grant support. If there is a part of sustainability after we have provided this granting, it is successful. If there is no part of sustainable granting, sustainable funding, sustainable operations after the grant period, mainly it failed. For example, I can bring the 2 examples from Central Asia. This K-root server. So this K-root server, in fact, is some technical capacity for Tajikistan. So it runs and runs and runs. There is no need to provide any funding for that. You should just put the money to fund the electricity for this. Of course, in some years there will be a need to change the equipment. In that case, they might come to us or to ISOC or to any other partner that can support them to change the equipment. But as of now, it requires almost no money to deploy it. Another project was about the IXP. So there were some funding of IXP, but because of many factors, it was not successful. So why we do put the importance on that, on what? On the community to be a leader in this project. Although Uche can mention that even if the regulator, even if the ministry says, and it is good when they say that we need a neutral exchange, we need this, we need that. It will not be successful until the community don't take the ownership and leadership of it in its hands. And in that case, when we have a person, when we have a community to lead it, in that case, we might get our success in our hands and keep it. And our hands are very strong. Ucha, show your hands. Not only hands, he is also strong with all other means, yes. Uchajan, your question.
My question is related, it's a different one, about the RIPE meeting. Do you have any list of the requirements to comply to do RIPE meeting somewhere? My points, Mahan, and maybe it is not your direction, but do you know, maybe you know some main points to comply?
I know, yeah. Thank you for a very good question. So, that is one of the most problematic questions in this part of the world. Large meetings like RIPE meeting, like ICANN meeting, they cannot be executed in this part of the world, including Russia and Ukraine, for example, that had some good facilities, because we have some lack of facilities first. So if you go to the requirements, both RIPE or ICANN, there is a clear requirement that you should have some good facilities. For example, 600, 700, you should have a hall for 600, 700, 800, depending on the event type. You should have a hall in the hotel. It should not be far from the hotel. It should be it will be beneficial if it is within the hotel. You should have also some extra rooms for the working group meetings, etc. We don't find such premises, unfortunately. We don't find such premises in Armenia, we don't find such premises in Georgia, and even if we find, they don't apply for that. I mean, first of all, the host should apply for that. I've been to Uzbekistan recently, and they have excellent premises, but really new build. They have some 5 or 6 5-star hotels in a line in 2 minutes from each other in Samarkand, with the exhibition hall, with the congress hall just next to them, and plus their own halls in the hotels. But the problem here comes also to the connection to Europe. If you see the participation by clusters at RIPE meetings, we have around 60, 70 or even more % of Europeans participating to these meetings. It is because the RIPE community is mainly based in Europe. I mean, the number of, not community members, I was wrong. They are mainly located in Europe, and they prefer to go to the places with whom they have a good connection. Like we did another RIPE meeting in Dubai, but with Dubai you have a really good connection. So this is not only about the ability of technical community to host it, but also the ability of the country to host such type of meetings. To make it, you should have a good connection to the hubs, to the airports. You should have a good business, let's say, environment, etc., etc. I think that maybe in future there might be such opportunity, maybe in Batumi. I don't know, where you have built a lot of these hotels with good premises. Yeah, maybe. But it should be also with the airport connection and with this Autobahn to Tbilisi. But this should be clearly indicated in your host proposal. And when you have at least small meeting, the largest meetings will come. Alles good? You have a question, okay.
I had a very quick question. You've mentioned that there are unfortunately only 2 root servers in Georgia near Tbilisi. I wanted to ask whether or not the higher number and variety of these root servers is any way connected to the efficiency or management of the internet infrastructure, local, national internet infrastructure as a whole.
Definitely, more root servers you have in your country, more efficient is your internet. Definitely. So more you bring here, better internet will be.
Thanks. Thank you.
Arapis. One question from Roman. 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 Roman, do you hear us? He hears. He is virtual. Okay, I'm just sending our greetings to Roman as well. Hello, Roman.
Small question about the root servers. That's why I'm asking. What's important? How can we do to get root server for Kutaisi data center for IXP?
No problemo. If you would talk about K-root server, you just should to apply to us and you can get it. Yeah, well, for L-root, we can also just direct you to our guys from ICANN, and they can also be helpful for you. No problem. Yeah, and we do appreciate the energetic approach of Roman and you, which are in this field. And as I've already told, we have this Anchor, Atlas Anchor already deployed and fortunately already running in Georgia, so we can make all these internet measurements using this Anchor as well. What we will do in Georgia for the next year, this might be also the question. So I've already mentioned that we have a number of these courses, training courses. But what we think, maybe there is a need to make some introductory session or workshop to all these courses so the community, the students can understand what are these courses about. So why do they need to participate these courses? Yeah?
Coordinators are going to visit our member universities. You see the logos on our banner. They are members of our USIGF. To do some introductory meeting with the students to explain what's internet governance, what the ISTAS, etc. So you can do it to plan together and go there together with Nini and our team is Georgi. So
fantastic. We can share the context, we can make it. Jawohl. Danke schön and applauses. Yeah. We have finished this session. Ding, ding. Thank you.
დიდი მადლობა ბატონ ასაპიანს. შემდგომი ჩვენი პანელი ეხება IXP-ის არსებულ ინფრასტრუქტურას, არსებულ სიტუაციას და ამ ხრივ რა სამოქმედო გეგმები შესაძლებელია განსაზღვროს მომავალში და ჩვენ გვერდთვებიან ISOC-დან, ინტერნეტის საზოგადოებიდან ბატონი მასიმილიანე სტუკი და ბატონი ხუან პეირანო. Mr. Stucchi, Mr. Peirano, can you hear us?
Yes, but I will be alone. Mr. Peirano cannot make it today. So.
Unfortunate. So,
no.
Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good, afternoon, everyone. Most of you know me by Max. I'm located in Zurich, and today I'm going to give you a brief introduction about what Internet exchange points are, and then I will go into a little bit more details about what's available in Tbilisi and in Kutaisi. So let me start sharing my screen, and I will need to find. There we go. Give me 1 second. Go, and I will start sharing now my Voila. I hope you can actually see them. Yes, I guess so. So, first of all, what is an internet exchange point? Vahan mentioned them a few times during his presentation. In its simplest form, an internet exchange point is a switch or a set of switches that allows members to exchange traffic directly. So you have to consider the internet exchange point as a transit point for traffic inside a country. Many countries have at least one. Here in Zurich, there are, for example, at least two. So I am responsible for one that's called CHIX, which is not the biggest one. There is SwissIX, which is the most prominent internet exchange in Switzerland. But if I look at the other parts of Switzerland, we have the CERN Internet Exchange. CERN is the research facility where they have the Large Hadron Collider, and as a research facility, they have lots of people who are involved in computer science. And so many years ago, they created a local internet exchange. There is RomandIX, there are a few more. So many countries have different points where people can exchange traffic, but smaller countries, like I have the example of Qatar, has only one. For Qatar is really in the news these weeks because of the Football World Cup, but they have one. I can think of Macedonia, where they have only one, but this doesn't reduce the importance of the exchange. So why do you want to have one? Because you want traffic to stay locally. You have to imagine a situation where you are an internet provider, you have your customers want to provide you to reach data, like they want to watch a YouTube video, or they want to chat with people on Facebook, or get content from Facebook. And where does this content come from? It comes from what's called a distribution network, content delivery network, that is run by Facebook, by Google for YouTube, by Netflix. And these networks have to be reached in a way, these content delivery networks. Normally, in a situation without an internet exchange point, you have to pay, if you're an ISP, you have to pay someone else, an ISP that's bigger than you. These are called usually tier ones. You have to pay someone to bring your traffic to and from these content delivery networks. But if you start building an IXP, you will most likely find these content delivery networks directly at your internet exchange point. So you don't have to send your traffic somewhere in other countries. You don't have to pay someone to do it. There is an optimization of your costs, because as you can see here, I say reduce the average per bit delivery cost. You're not going to use the transit. You're going to keep traffic local. And more important, your money stays local. So that means that you can provide a better service, and most likely even at a better cost as an ISP. It also improves fault tolerance. Or if you can reach the same content via the local IXP or via your transit, if your transit has an issue, some international cable cut happens, they happen most of the time, then you can still reach your content locally. Vice versa, if you have an issue at your internet exchange point for a brief period of time, while you fix your issues, you can still provide service via the transit. So you add fault tolerance, you add the ability of providing the same service at a lower cost, and all of this keeping traffic local. So who runs normally internet exchanges? There are often, not always, but more often, non-profit organizations that are membership-based. So everyone usually can join. Give you an idea, I'm a member of SwissIX with my own network, with my own autonomous system network. I pay a membership fee every year, and I join SwissIX. I haven't checked, but for today, but most likely this conversation from my home to you in Georgia is going through a series, well, one internet exchange at least. I know I meet Zoom over SwissIX, for example. So I'm exchanging this traffic over an internet exchange. So I mentioned that the IXP architecture is a switch or a group of switches, and you could be stopped. You could be stopped there. You just put a switch together with different port ranges. Here I say from 100 megabits to 100 gigabit. Actually, I should update these slides to say nowadays we go from at least 1 gigabit to some exchanges who already have 400 gigabit ports, and some of them are already looking at 800 gigabit. But the port speed is not that important. The important is to understand that basically an IXP represents a point where different service providers get together and agree on exchanging traffic on a common platform. So to facilitate this, switches are usually in co-location facilities, data centers, where operators usually host their routers and their core routers, their core devices, so that it's easy to reach them. And as we will see, it's the case for Georgia. These facilities can be also spread in different places across a city or across a region or a country. And in some cases, for additional redundancy, some IXPs have two different LANs. They have two separate networks, so that if there's an issue with one, you can always fall back to the second LAN for redundancy. It is not a hard requirement, but that is what the larger IXPs do, such as Lynx, Namzix, for example. Normally, you would, if you want to join an IXP, what you do is you bring your own router, you put it in the facility where the IXP is, you connect your router to your core routers, and then you have a local patch. We'll see that in a moment, that you connect to the IXP. But that can be expensive because you need to buy an additional router, you need to buy transport to the location, you need to get the patch, you need to do maintenance. So in my case, to give you an example, I peer locally with SwissIX, but I have my own router. But I'm lucky because if I have to do maintenance, it's a 10-minute car trip to go to the data center there. So I can do it pretty briefly. But in some cases, I know of exchanges, like when I ran my own internet service provider back in the days in Italy, to go to the data center where the Milan Internet Exchange was, we had to drive for more than an hour. So doing a maintenance could mean preparing, 1 hour without traffic. With traffic, it could be up to 4 hours. So we needed to plan maintenances. It wasn't something we could do easily. So there are pros and cons to having a local router at the Internet Exchange, but also in some cases you can do what is called remote peering. You can extend your port to your own data center. I know some of the operators in Georgia are currently doing that. Many companies offer this as a service globally. So you pay one organization and they have you reach a series of different internet exchanges. And it's a cheaper alternative to co-locating equipment at every data center or every IXP. You have to imagine that there are networks where they want to reach a very high number of internet exchange points, and co-locating one router for every one of them can become very expensive very quickly. So they use remote peering to reach more data centers, more internet exchanges. But then there is a con to do remote peering. It can be cheaper. It is definitely cheaper for maintaining your equipment, but your peering session is then subject to latency. So there is, of course, a distance that the data has to cover between you and the internet exchange, and that latency, some operators account for it. Consider that when sending you data. So they prefer, in some cases, to not do that, switch it to the transit. So you have to pay attention to this. So what does it mean when we say connecting to an IXP? We have seen the importance of doing it. We have seen the how IXPs helped keep traffic local. But what do you do? What are your duties? So before you decide, you have to identify the IXP or the IXPs you would like to connect to. So if you are in a country that has more than one, the best thing to do is look at your NetFlow or SFlow, or consider the destinations, as I say in the next point, which networks you exchange the most traffic with. Are they peering locally at the local IXP, or do you have to go somewhere else? And especially, do they have what's called an open peering policy? I will explain this in a moment. And feel free to stop me if you have questions. I prefer to take them now rather than later on. So maybe someone can tell me if there's a question from the audience locally, and I will stop. So you have to take a look at the traffic patterns, and usually, I can tell you, usually it will be I don't know, Google. It will be YouTube. That's one of the biggest sources of traffic. And then look at which IXP you can find them. Are they at the local IXP, or do you have to go to a more regional IXP or move to another country? And you can check this on the IXP website, but also consider PeeringDB, which is an important tool for these potential peers. So you have to come up with a plan and say, where do I want to connect? Do I have a national local internet exchange? That would be, in my case, the best choice. Go there, increase peering locally, because most likely you also have all the local content. We will see that in a moment when we talk also about IXP.G. And then start connecting there. But then what do you need when you do this? You need a router, and it could be local or remote. You need a patch. It could be different types of local patches. And when I say patch, I mean a cable that goes from your router to the internet exchange. But it can also be on the right side of the red columns. It can be a transport. It can be dark fiber. It can be VLL. It can be anything. And then you need the local optics, and you have to decide together with the operators of the IXP which ones you would like to have. Some IXPs run bidirectional optics as well. So you need just one fiber, not a couple of them, to connect to the IXP. Some do only just a fiber with the two different strands. And then you have to choose your port speed, 1 gigabit, 10, 100, 400. So taking a step back, you have to decide how you want to connect. You want to do local peering or remote peering. So you need a local router, or you just keep using your remote router. And then, does the IXP have multiple locations? If yes, then check the different data centers. For example, here for SwissIX, you have a choice of about 6 or 7 different data centers. And in some of them, the patch costs are canceled by the local colocation facility, so you don't pay. In some others, you pay, but a reduced fee. So this can have an impact. Patches have a monthly cost for keeping them. It can range from, at least in this part of the world, it ranges from, I don't know, 30 euros per month, Swiss francs, but it's now almost 1-to-1, the exchange, to, in some cases, even 100 a month. So if you find, if you can decide where to connect based also on the patch costs and the colocation costs. So figure this out before you decide, and then at that point you have to choose your router and consider the port number requirements. So how many ports do you think you will need in a certain location? And what port types will you need? So will you need just an SFPs will be fine because you don't plan on going over 1 gigabit, or you want to plan already for 10 gigabits, and so you want something which supports SFP+. Or you want something that goes above that, so something with a 40 gig port capacity or 100 gig, something like that. So that is the first step, but then consider also having what's called an N+1 setup. So always have 2 routers. And one important part here is with redundant power supplies. We recently had a power maintenance in one of the data centers around here in Switzerland. And every rack in that data center has 2 power lines, but then not all the equipment has redundant power supplies. So at least not all the equipment that me and a few other people have had redundant power supplies. So you should consider having different redundant power supplies. But then my recommendation, because people usually ask me, what is your platform of choice? Like, what is it? What would you recommend for a peering router? And the range can go from a very tiny MikroTik router, yes, to a very large Juniper, Cisco, Nokia router. Choose your platform of choice. Use what you feel it is best. Why? Because when there are issues, if you don't know if the platform, you'll run into even more issues. For example, personally, what I use is none of the big names. My routers that my peering routers are FreeBSD, so software routers. It's a normal hardware, like 1U hardware with FreeBSD, BIRD, and then a bunch of virtual machines on board to do local RPKI validators and also local resolver for DNS. And so this is a platform that I found is flexible enough to do whatever I need, and I don't need to have incredible speed, incredible routing capacity. So those are fine for me for the moment. Maybe in the future we'll review that. So use whatever you feel more comfortable with, the most comfortable with. So how do you set up the router once you decided which one you want? Consider having 2 separate transports from your core to the local peering router over different media or over different paths if possible. you want to be, well, your router or your routers, actually in this case, you want to have two transports going to two different routers in the same facility, and then connect the two routers so they exchange traffic. Consider transport can be dark fiber, can be CWDM. I actually found a typo. DWDM, VLL, MPLS, and just an extended VLAN, can be anything. Any one of these solutions has pros and cons, but if you have two different transports from, say, two different operators, then it's even using different technologies, then you can be redundant enough, hopefully. And then choose your port speed. For example, at the initial question, is the smallest port good for you to start with? I have a 1 gigabit port with SwissIX. Do I need more? No, not really now. I keep the traffic monitored, but also you should know that as we progress, 1 gigabit ports are not widely available in most places anymore. And this is the reason is that switches now, you either have the low end with 1 gigabit ports capable of doing 1 gigabit, and then stopping at 25 or 40 gigabits for inter-switch connectivity, or you move one step ahead and you have all 10 gigabit ports with 40 and 100. And exchanges that look forward now don't have 1 gigabit ports anymore, or they need to set up an external switch besides the normal peering switch to do the job of breaking out 1 gigabit ports. But in many cases, the solution is to get 1 gigabit over a 10 gigabit port. So you have the possibility of doing up to 10 gigabit of traffic, 10 gigabit per second of traffic, but you're reduced to only one build at 95th percentile. So it means most of the time you can, if you stay under the 1 gigabit usage, that's fine. If for 1 month you go over the over the usage for 1 gigabit, then you get a warning, and then usually from the second or third month you start paying for 2 or 10 gigabits. Now, what is the suggestion here is consider upgrading when you reach 50% capacity over your port. So why this? Because consider when you have a port that's being used and you have another port that's with your transit, that's another 50% used. If that traffic dies and has to move over your peering port or has to move somewhere else, then your capacity will be, your port will be overwhelmed. So one of the best solutions is to consider 50% capacity, you upgrade your port to the next one. And then patches. I've already mentioned them, but usually have to request these from the data center operator. They usually have a setup fee because someone has to go there, run the cable, put it down, crimp it, or splice the fiber. And then there's the cost of the cable. And then, in many cases, a monthly fee. In some cases, data centers require you to have and pay for a patch panel. So they put all your fibers into this panel that's on top. You have to pay for it. And then they terminate all the fibers there for you. Now, this is sometimes an issue with the time that it requires for the patches to be prepared and laid down. So consider this when deciding when to deploy your new exchange. And then remote connectivity, I mentioned it. You don't have to pay for colocation. You don't need additional peering routers. But many IXP participants prefer not to peer with some people using remote peering. They identify that you're doing remote peering, and sometimes they are not happy about that. So keep this in mind. So moving a little bit from the technical side to more of the politics of peering. We have to consider a quote here that says, Internet peering is the business relationship whereby two companies reciprocally provide access to each other as customers. So you have two companies who decide, I have my customers or my content I want you and your customers to access. And let's do a mutual agreement to allow this. So when we talk about this, who are the players? We have content, so the CDNs, we have the OTTs, which also have CDNs, and OTTs are over the top, sometimes are mixed with content, but consider that now we're having an evolution where in some countries, many events are just streamed over the internet for people to watch. And so this is a slightly different category of content providers. And then we have the access providers, which are sometimes referred to as the eyeballs. Now, why would these people want to peer? Because they want to increase redundancy. We've already mentioned it. They want to increase capacity. If you, instead of buying a new port from a transit provider, you add one port at the local internet exchange. And then by doing this, you can increase control over your traffic. For example, I told you I have peering at two different internet exchanges, and some operators, I can meet them on both peering LANs. But for example, I actually set a better preference for accepting and sending traffic to me over CHIX. Because on CHIX, I have a 10 gigabit port, and then on SwissIX, I only have 1 gigabit. So I tend to prefer CHIX if possible, and this gives me control. This gives me the capacity of saying, okay, we have two redundant paths, but I prefer this. I prefer you sending me traffic over this exchange because I have a better port and I have better control over it. And then while doing this, you improve performance. For example, through my transits, I could reach Google with 15 milliseconds of delay, but when I set up the direct peering with them over CHIX and over SwissIX, I actually got it down to a tenth of it. It's 1.5 milliseconds to go from my infrastructure all the way to Google. And improve perception of your network. This is an interesting part where people will evaluate your network also based on how many internet exchanges you have appearing at. In the past, when I really started doing all this, I remember with my local ISP, we joined one internet exchange. We sent out peering requests. Not many really bothered replying to us. But then we changed. We started going to more internet exchanges. And once we reached a certain threshold, and we would send out new peering requests to the same networks, but in different locations, they would see, oh, I've already seen you are at this, and other internet exchanges. Let's now set up peering because I see you're a good network. So this can be an interesting point to consider. And then last is the ease of requesting emergency help. This comes through mostly as the NOG, but as a network operators group, but also the Internet Exchange. Hey, I constantly see these like, hey, we're in this colocation facility, but we just had a broken optic. Does anyone have an optic they can give us for the time being, and then we buy some, and then we'll give it back to you? This happens all the time in many nodes and many IXP communities. So you're not alone at that point. You have a whole community helping you, and that's an added value of peering and added value of being known in the IXPs. Then, even if the cost of transit has gone down dramatically in many places, I know Georgia is not one of these places, but hopefully things will change soon. Transit gives you a global access. So you can access all the, hopefully, all of the networks around the world, but you see them the way your transit provider, or hopefully transit providers, want you to see. But when you get peering, you get focused access. That is for a country, for a certain area, for specific local content, and also for global content, but it's more focused. And in this case, it gives you an improved experience over the internet. Then you join an IXP, and I always find this amusing, like talking to people who have never connected to an IXP before. You have to make yourself known. First of all, if there's a route server available or more, start peering with the route server. This gives you already a good number of routes, and usually it gives you also some of the important content providers that are more local. And for those who are not peering on the route server, there's a good old method: send an email. Personally, I have a system that is, I always peer with the route servers, and then I have a script. I can share it with anyone that looks into PeeringDB. PeeringDB is a website that gives you all the internet exchanges and all the networks peering at internet exchanges. And then I check those networks that say they're not peering with the route servers, but they have what's called an open peering policy. And that gives me all those who are hopefully open to peer with me. And then I send them an email. And an email can be as simple as, hi, we are this organization, we operate this, we do that. We would like to peer with you at this internet exchange, and this is our data. This is a very simple email. You can prepare it as a draft, have it as a template, and then just send it out to anyone. Now, I have a question for you, and I don't know how many people are in the room now, but have you ever tried this approach? And if you have tried it, what was the outcome? I always ask this. I like to feel the sense of the room. Is there anyone in the room who has tried it?
Yes, Ucha will respond to that. One moment. Max, hi. Ucha will respond to that.
Yeah.
Max, thank you very much.
Yes.
For information, we have a few operators here in the room, and most of them are online.
Mm-hmm.
And we have good news today. We have additional one operator from Guria region, +1, we can say. Could you say what could be our plans for next 6 months? Because we are moving very slowly, but we are moving forward.
Yeah.
So what's your personal opinion, recommendation for our operators?
Okay, I'll get to that in a moment, because I have well, hold on. Well, Well, I'll get to that. I'll answer you when we get to talk about IXP, the IXP in Georgia, because I have a section about that. It's in a few slides. Sorry for not answering now, but hold that on for a moment. I'll get to that in a bit. Is there any other question?
Questions?
Right.
Not yet. We can move forward.
Not yet. Okay. So, getting in touch via email can carry out some effects, but sometimes it's small. For example, about a week ago, I started emailing some more participants at SwissIX, and I sent out probably 12 or 15 emails. And in the meantime, I've set up only 4 or 5 sessions. So the signal to noise ratio is a bit low. But some participants have different policies, and some may not be willing to peer with you. They just don't answer your email. Or some of them, they give you conditions. So what is the best approach? Is to meet network coordinators or peering coordinators at events, RAR meetings, so the RIPE meeting, the NOGs, peering forums. There was one recently that I'm sure Vahan mentioned before I joined the call, Internet Exchange meetings. If you meet someone face-to-face and you go directly and ask, can we peer? It's easier to get a direct answer than it is via email. And this is one of the suggestions I can give to the people to answer you, Ucha, but I have more in a moment. So what are these peering policies? There are peering policies that are open, which means I'll peer with anyone. Selective, which says I'll give you some conditions to meet. In some cases, it can be, oh, you need to be exchanging at least 1 gigabit of traffic on two different, and you have to be present in 2 different exchanges in 2 different regions, blah, blah, blah. Some cases can be, the peering policy can be restrictive. So only in very specific cases we will peer with someone. And some operators have a no peering policy. Everything has to go through our transits, or we decide. It's even more than restrictive. Only those who are part of a special club, we will peer with them. And then there's something called paid peering. Operators such as, say, Telecom Italia or Deutsche Telekom, they do it where they say, oh, I have 20 million customers. And if you want to peer with me and get traffic directly to my customers, you have to pay. It can be expensive, but in many cases can be better than reaching the destination via transits. The situation, for example, in Italy was that Telecom Italia canceled all the peering they had. That was in 2013. And said, oh, we will only peer with you if you pay. And otherwise, your traffic going from an Italian, say, data center to the customers of Telecom Italia, still in Italy, could be 50 meters away, would go all the way to Frankfurt and then back. So some big networks play this game. You can decide to pay for it. It can make sense. Or sometimes you get it as an addition to some products you're already buying. But so what are the challenges when you want to peer? You require a little bit of network expertise. Sometimes you have an overhead in operations because setting up all the peering sessions can be additional work. For example, I also monitor in my network every single peering session to see if it goes down or if it's up. And if it goes down, I tend to email my neighbors to tell them it's not working. So this might translate into more work, but then the process can be slow. As I said, I sent out a bunch of emails last week. I still haven't received many answers. Maybe some will come in the next couple of weeks because people are busy with more important engineering parts. And especially when you need a port upgrade, things can be slow. Imagine what happens when you set up a peering with you have a port at an IXP, and then you want to upgrade your port because you need more traffic to go through the exchange. But then the exchange might tell you, okay, you need to wait a moment because we've run out of 40 gig ports or 100 gig ports. That can take some time because then the IXP would need to buy new switches. The switches, especially now, take a long time to deliver and so on. And then peering may not be granted. And there is an interesting resource. It's called the Internet Peering Playbook. That's a book that explains how the game of peering works at an international level. So what is bilateral peering? Bilateral peering is just a simple direct BGP session with another IXP participant. You announce your routes and you get your and your customers, and the other participant does the same. So consider filtering is very important. I'll go quickly through this because this is for a more technical presentation. But consider your routes, your customer cone when you filter, and filter strictly based on IRR data and RPKI. Never try to announce a full routing table, and set up filters before setting up any BGP session. And then when you receive routes, filter also based on the IRR data and RPKI. Check PeeringDB for AS sets and read the RFC 7454 for more information. And this is how you generate BGP filters, prefix filters. Basically, you have an AS set. In the AS set, when you create it, you add members. And when you create an AS set, never leave it empty with members. Always put yourself, your ASN, as a member. I've seen many cases where the AS set is just empty. Put yourself as a member first, and then add your customers as well. And then filters can be generated using a tool such as BGPQ4, which takes all the data from the IRR and builds your prefix lists. Route servers are just a facility that is added to an internet exchange. It helps go from a situation where you would have to set up BGP sessions with every single other member on the IXP, to a situation where everyone peers with the route server. This is the best solution. Everyone peers with the route server, and then consider that the traffic doesn't go through the route server, but goes directly between participants. So the route server just distributes the routes and tells the participants where to find certain destinations. What is the improvement when you have route servers? You have fewer BGP sessions, and then implicit filtering, because route server operators, so the exchanges, usually filter with IRRs, with RPKI, and then there are other facilities such as communities to figure out who to announce certain routes to or not, and other information. There is a little catch here where you might need an additional protocol that's called BFD to figure out if the other side is up or not. But this is also more for a technical talk. So what is about IXP.ge? And I know I'm between you and lunch, so I'll spend 5 minutes here. We have been working together with Ucha, together with Roman, together with Cloud9, with Konstantin from Cloud9 to set up an IXP infrastructure in Georgia. I work at the Internet Society. This is part of the job I have. And we have set up 2 locations. Tbilisi and Kutaisi. And the POPs are interconnected. So independently of where you connect, you will see all the other participants. How do you join the Georgian XP? There's a simple form you find on the website. You have to choose your port speed and location, and you need a PeeringDB entry with your AS set. And then you get transport. You need a way to reach the POP you want to join, either Kutaisi or Tbilisi. And then we have root servers. Two, we have one that runs FreeBSD and BERT, the other one that runs OpenBSD and OpenBGPD, and everything is filtered using IRR and RPKI data. So whenever you peer with the route servers here, you get complete filters. But it also means that if you want to announce something, data must be in the IRR and must be in RPKI. So when Ucha asks me, what are the recommendations for the local operators? The recommendations are to join the local exchange, to make sure that you at least have a session with the route servers, and as I say here, have a PeeringDB entry and with your AS set, because this is important. This is important to show international operators how the IXP in Georgia is growing, who is there and who is not. Because international operators, they look at PeeringDB data to figure out their next POPs, their next internet exchanges. So at this point in time, the IXP.G is growing slowly, but it is growing, and hopefully we'll reach a point where it will be interesting for content operators to start joining. And hopefully in 2023, one work that I would like to do is to bring some, as Vahan was mentioning, some root DNS in either Tbilisi or Kutaisi, and have them on the peering LAN, and then see if we can convince some international operator to start joining. So these are my recommendations, Ucha, and I hope I answered your question. So I'm ready for other questions if there are any.
Yes, Mr. Stuckey, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation about the aspects of technical intricacies of the Internet Exchange Point infrastructure. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. Rami კითხვები ხომ არ არის? თუ კითხვები არ არის, მაშინ მე დღევანდელი ფორუმის მიმდინარეობის თაობაზე სიტყვას გადავცემ ბატონ უჩა სეთურს.
Max, thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Please share your slides. I will put in our internal group.
Okay.
Okay. So we can go to the lunch and can say ciao to Max. Bye-bye.
I wish I was there, because I'm sure lunch is going to be really good as well.
Great. Thank you, Max. Again.
Thank you.
I will eat instead of you, Max. Don't worry.
Sorry?
I will eat instead of you.
Okay.
Just tell me what do you want.